If there is one thing I wish more people understood before pressing play on a hypnosis recording, it's this. Um, I've recorded a very large number of hypnosis sessions over the years, but I do not believe a recording simply does something to an unsuspecting brain. And that may surprise you because, for decades, hypnosis has often been presented as though the hypnotist possesses some mysterious power. You sit back, you listen to the voice, and somehow your subconscious mind gets reprogrammed while you simply and passively lie there. I completely understand why that's an appealing idea, by the way. Wouldn't it be wonderful if all personal change required was finding the right voice with the right accent, pressing play, and waking up, ta-da, transformed? I'd probably have sold a lot more audio programs over the years if I'd have encouraged people to believe that. But I don't think it's true. And I don't think it's a particularly helpful way of understanding hypnosis. In fact, I've spent much more of my professional life trying to move people away from the idea that the hypnotist does hypnosis to someone else. Whether hypnosis happens in my clinic, in a classroom, or through a recording that you're listening to at home, the process is something that we create together. We collaborate. You are not a passive recipient. You are an active participant. You're an active agent. And in many ways, of course, you're the most important part of the process. The recording provides a structure, a framework, a context. It offers suggestions. It directs your attention. It creates opportunities. But what happens next depends enormously upon what you do with those opportunities. Think about what you are actually contributing while you're listening. Your attention, where you choose to focus, your imagination, your ability to explore possibilities, even if the images aren't vivid, your interpretation of the suggestions and the meanings that you give to the words, your expectations. I speak about this a lot, not unrealistic expectations, but a genuine openness to discovering what might happen or what you can expect to happen and create to happen in your reality. Your willingness to experiment rather than constantly asking, am I doing this right? Is this correct? And and perhaps most importantly, your willingness to practice. And that last one is overlooked. It's often overlooked, frustratingly so from my perspective. Nobody expects to become a skilled pianist after listening to one piano lesson. Nobody goes to the gym once and expects lifelong fitness. Yet, so many people listen to a single hypnosis recording and conclude, well, nothing happened. I suppose hypnosis doesn't work for me. And that's a little like standing in a garage for 10 minutes and wondering why you haven't become a Formula One driver. Hypnosis can be seen as a psychological skill. And like many skills, it improves through experience. The more familiar you become with directing your attention, engaging your imagination, responding to suggestions, the more naturally those abilities tend to develop. Now, does that mean every recording works equally well for everyone? Of course not. Some recordings will suit you better than others. Some voices will resonate more than others. Some subjects will be more personally relevant. And that's perfectly normal. That's usual. But even the most carefully constructed hypnosis recording in the world cannot replace your own participation. And this idea is central to almost everything I do professionally. It's one of the reasons I wrote my book, The Science of Self-Hypnosis. I wanted to explain hypnosis as a collaboration between psychological processes rather than as something mysterious happening to people. And that influences how I record a hypnosis audio program, for example, rather than trying to convince people that my voice possesses magical qualities, which, despite my other half occasionally telling me it absolutely does not. I do my best to create recordings that encourage people to become more skillful at using their own minds. And that's also how I teach future hypnotherapists on my courses. I want practitioners to respect the intelligence and agency of the people sitting in front of them. The therapist, the hypnotherapist, contributes knowledge and structure and experience and context and guidance. The client contributes attention, imagination, interpretation, motivation, and their own, remarkable capacity to learn. And when those things come together, well, that's often where the change begins. And I actually think this way of understanding hypnosis is far more empowering. Because if the power isn't inside my voice, it's not within my voice. If the power's not inside my voice, then it was never outside of you in the first place. The recording becomes a tool, a guide, a set of psychological prompts, not the source of your ability to change. And that's good news. That's marvelous news because it means you're developing a skill that you can take with you into every area of your life. You can import that into real life, whether you're improving confidence, managing stress, sleeping better, reducing anxiety, elevating your mood, or simply becoming better at using self-hypnosis. My aim has never been to make people dependent upon my voice. My aim is to help people become increasingly skillful at using their own minds. And I think that's a much more exciting prospect. I'd genuinely be interested to know, what were you originally taught or led to believe about how hypnosis works? Let me know in the comments below. And if you'd like to explore this way of understanding hypnosis in much more depth, have a look at my book, The Science of Self-Hypnosis, where I unpack the psychology, the evidence, and the practical skills to help people become genuinely effective users of self-hypnosis. Thank you for watching. I'll see you again next time.